Hello everybody and welcome back to Tyrion, Cuthbert, Attorney of the Arcane. Last time, we took up Wallace's case. We started investigating shit. We are assuming that the victim wasn't killed with wasn't killed with the necromancy magic that they want. That the prosecution is probably gonna want to push. Let's get started. It was time for the trial, and my heart was thundering against my chest like a drum. Luckily, I'd been reading about some meditative techniques after what happened last time. I just needed to take deep breaths and relax. I breathed in, I breathed out, I breathed in. Hi, Tyrion! Yeah, Celeste? Don't stick up on me like that. Are your nerves acting up again? Come on, it's not as if it's your first time defending someone. Yes, it is. No, it's just my second time. It's too bad Ruby couldn't make it. I'd say that you should calm down for Wallace's sake, but there are so many people here. And they're all looking at me. Their eyes are prying into me like a pack of flesh-eating maggots. You? I needed to calm down. I was just making Wallace more nervous. Don't worry, Wallace. Our investigation revealed a lot of weaknesses in the prosecution's case. We have a strong case for your acquittal. Okay. Actually, that was true. I really had nothing to worry about. See, you can be confident when you want to be. Hello, guys.
Order!
Court is now in session for the trial of Wallace Nightgrave. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor. The defense is also ready. Very well. Prosecutor Stillwind, could you please list the charges? Mr. Nightgrave is a second-year student at the Wyvern Guard Imperial Academy. He is charged with first-degree murder, negligent misuse of the arcane arts, and illegal practice of advanced necromancy. Necromancy? Do you mean to tell me that the defendant is a necromancer? I can't believe it! A necromancer? In this day and age? How could the kingdom allow this to happen?
Objection!
Your Honor, I would like to remind the court that they are obligated to judge my client objectively. Of course, but one can easily see it from the list of charges. Necromancy plays a large role in the charges. Indeed. The crime occurred within the academy this morning. This morning? We're having the trial the same day? Okay. Okay. Well, okay. That's... Wow. Damn. Wait a minute. The victim is Catherine Bellwether, a professor at the school. It couldn't have occurred this morning. It was at 2:01 p.m. Although there are no witnesses to the crime, traces of necromancy were detected on the body. Furthermore, the autopsy report shows that the body has no physical wounds. Hold on. Necromancy is the only type of magic that can harm an individual without physically wounding them. Additionally, an alchemist report shows no signs of poison or disease. One could only conclude that a necromancer had committed the crime. I see. As many of you know, the practice of advanced necromancy is outlawed in the Kingdom of Wyverngard. Aside from the defendant, no other students had learned advanced necrotic magic. As such, the defendant was the only mage in that building capable of committing the murder. I see. That is certainly compelling evidence. To properly present our case, the prosecution would like to call Commander Orem White to the stand. Commander White, please testify to the court about the Inquisition's findings. Yeah. Witness testimony. It started when the City Watch got called from the Imperial Academy. Someone was attacked, and the whole building was put on lockdown. We set up a perimeter around the area and waited for the lockdown system to deactivate. When we finally got into the building, the prosecutor personally inspected the body and detected traces of necromancy on it. There were no cuts or bruises on the body either. The entire body was clean. With those two pieces of evidence, we concluded that it could only be the necromancer kid that did it. The Inquisition's testimony was just as I'd expected. I'd already found and identified the holes in Steelwind's case. All I had to do was find that hole in the commander's testimony. Mr. Cuthbert, you may begin your cross-examination. Cross-examination. Let's go. It started when the City Watch got a call from the Imperial Academy. Someone was attacked, and the whole building was put on lockdown. What time did this call come in? A little after 3 p.m. It was a few minutes after the murder was discovered. Right, I remember that was around the time the lockdown occurred. We set up a perimeter around the area and waited for the lockdown system to deactivate. The lockdown couldn't be ended manually, so they must have been forced to wait for an hour until it was lifted. How secure was this perimeter? Is it possible that someone slipped past you? The Inquisition was working in conjunction with the City Watch and the King's Guard. With that many soldiers at the scene, it's very unlikely that anyone escaped unnoticed. That made sense. Better or for worse, the kingdom must have acted quickly to protect the building, filled with the children of every noble family. When we finally got into the building, the prosecutor personally inspected the body and detected traces of necromancy on it. Why did the prosecutor inspect the body instead of the Inquisition? Well...
Objection!
How I chose to lead the investigation is irrelevant to the proceedings. Or would you like to insinuate that I'm not as competent as Commander White? It's not a question of your competency, Steelwind. I just find your actions to be bizarre, given how you usually work. Well, the court admits that the prosecutor's actions are unorthodox. We find the presence of a necromancer to be an unorthodox situation. I see no reason to question the prosecutor's actions. Thank you, Your Honor. There were no cuts or bruises on the body either. The body was entirely clean. How carefully was the body checked? Perhaps the prosecution missed something like a small puncture wound. The coroner couldn't find even the smallest cut, bruise, or fracture on the body. Furthermore, the alchemist's report showed no signs of poison or disease. The necromancy spell had obfuscated the post-mortem divination. I spared no expense to verify the cause of death through other means. That made sense. If someone had used mend wounds on the body, it would have healed even the most minor of injuries. So, how do I prove that someone healed the body? With those two pieces of evidence, we concluded that it could only be the necromancer kid that did it. And the prosecution believes that my client used necrotic blight. Yup. It's the only way that the crime scene makes any sense. Necrotic blight? I'm afraid I've never heard of this spell before. Necrotic blight is a spell that drains the life force from its target. When used on a living human, it makes their bodily functions cease. Their body dies soon after. I see. What a horrible spell! That commoner should have been allowed to learn something. What the? That commoner should have never been allowed to learn something like that. I thought there would be more protection against children learning this. Wallace's spell compendium really wasn't doing him any favors. There really is a large stigma against necromancers, isn't there? We already collected a lot of evidence after investigating the crime scene. We already know that the Inquisition's theory contradicts one of the clues that we found. Right. All I have to do is present that contradiction to the court. It's here, right?
Objection!
Yeah. Commander White, it appears that you've neglected to mention one key detail of the crime scene. Yeah, what's that? During your testimony, you said that the entire body was clean. I will admit that there weren't any wounds on the body. However, the body was certainly not clean. At the scene of the crime, there was a large pool of blood located where the body was. This blood had to have come from the victim's body, and it was certainly not clean like the commander testified. I'm sorry, Mr. Cuthbert, but I failed to see the significance of this. I'd like to remind the court of the prosecution's case against my client. They're accusing him of murdering the victim using necrotic blight, a spell which would have not physically wounded the victim. So why was there any blood at all? Let's not get ahead of ourselves. The fact still stands. There are no wounds on the body. Nor were there any reports of poison or disease on the autopsy. There are clearly magical elements in this case. But Catherine Bellwether was bleeding profusely at some point. How else would there be a bloodstain on the body? Do you have an explanation for that, Miss Steelwind? No. I'll admit that the prosecution doesn't have an explanation for that. And while I do find the circumstances questionable, all other evidence clearly points to the defendant. Which spell would leave a trace of necromancy. So tell me, Mr. Cuthbert, if the victim wasn't killed with necromancy, why was there a trace of it on the body? I'm glad you asked. I think there wasn't a spell that could have left a trace of necromancy on the body. Where is it? No. Mend wounds. Mend wounds? Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that a healing spell? That's correct, Your Honor. Spells from the School of Necromancy can control the forces of death and life. Mend wounds is, in fact, a necromancy spell. Really now? I wasn't aware of this. Now, I'd like the court to consider the following. What would happen if Bellwether was wounded and someone attempted to heal her using mend wounds? All of her wounds would disappear from her body. I see. That does make sense.
Objection!
Do you think I'm that incompetent, Mr. Cuthbert? Frankly, I'm a little insulted. What? The Inquisition is well aware of what happens when a mage attempts to save a victim using mend wounds. The healers that arrived at the scene already confirmed that the victim was long dead. None of them attempted to heal her. Well, what if someone tried to heal her and didn't report it? Please, none of the healers would have anything to gain by doing so. In fact, as a necromancer, the defendant could have easily carried out the described scenario. He could have cast mend wounds on the victim after murdering her to confound the investigation. At the end of the day, the burden of proof was on us. But if I could prove someone else healed the body, I would sever the only thread linking Wallace to the murder. Whoever this healer was, Valentina definitely knew her. Your Honor, I will admit that I don't have any evidence to support my theory. However, I do believe that we can bring it to light. There may have been two people that witnessed someone cast magic on the body. Valentina and Valerie Ionis, the sisters who discovered the body. This is nonsense. We've already questioned those two witnesses extensively. If they had witnessed something like that, it would have come up in their testimony. If that's true, then the courts have nothing to lose by hearing their testimonies. Very well. If you're so confident, let's hear her testimony. It seems the prosecution has no objections. If this line of questioning leads nowhere, however, I see no reason to further prolong this trial. Of course, Your Honor. Oh crap! It's that guy from before! What? He's the necromancer's lawyer? She just arrived at the stand and she was already stressed out. That would work in my favor. Witness, please state your name and occupation for the court. My name... Witness, there's no need to be so nervous. We merely want to hear about what you saw on the day of the murder. Right. It's just that guy over there, he... Are you talking about Mr. Cuthbert? Did this man harass you, witness? Wait a minute. Yeah! He super harassed me. Mr. Cuthbert, I would expect someone of your profession to behave more professionally. I could hear Celeste snickering under her breath. You're enjoying this far too much. Anyways, please state your name and occupation for the court, Miss Ionis. Just calm down. He can't prove anything. My name is Valentina Ionis. I'm the head chef at the Wyvern Guard Imperial Academy. Really? Not at such a young age. As I recall, one of the witnesses who discovered the body... Apparently, the defense finds your involvement suspect. Rest assured, Miss Ionis. In this courtroom, you'll be protected from Mr. Cuthbert's harassment. Now, please testify to the court on what happened that day. Yeah. Witness testimony. I was walking with my sister in the West Wing when we noticed something in a nearby classroom. We looked over to see what it was. That's when we saw Miss Bellwether bleeding on the ground. My sister tried her best to help her, but the professor had already lost a lot of blood. When my sister did that, I used an emergency communication device to call for help. But it was too late. By the time her bleeding stopped, she'd already lost too much blood. If your theory is true, that means she just lied in her testimony. She's holding something back. She definitely saw more than she's letting on. I just needed to prove that somehow. Mr. Cuthbert, you may begin your cross-examination. I was walking with my sister in the West Wing when we noticed something in a nearby classroom. Where were you two coming from? We came from the kitchen. We were taking a break after the lunch rush. The cafeteria was on the west side of the academy, so that made sense. What did you see in the classroom, Miss Ionis? We looked over to see who it was. That's when we saw Miss Bellwether bleeding on the ground. Did you notice anything else strange in the lecture hall? Well, there was that terrible smell. It was awful. I almost couldn't see because of how much I was tearing up. It makes sense. Aside from Bellwether, that smell was the most notable thing in the room. It would have been hard to notice anything else. My sister tried her best to help her, but the professor had already lost a lot of blood. She tried to help her? Miss Ionis, how exactly did your sister try to help Miss Bellwether? What? I slipped up. Oh, my sister used first aid to try to stop the bleeding. I see. Could you please add that detail to your testimony? Yeah, sure. She used first aid and applied pressure to her wound to stop the bleeding. Your sister knows how to use a first aid kit. Yeah? It was covered in our training when we first started working there. With all the nobles around, I guess the headmaster wanted to make sure we were prepared. While my sister did that, I used an emergency communication device to call for help. A device? It's a communication device for use in an emergency. I see. So who did you contact? I wasn't sure, honestly. I could hear a lot of people talking on the other end. That particular device broadcasts to the headmaster's office and the City Watch barracks. I imagine that's why the headmaster was able to activate the lockdown so quickly. I see. But it was too late. By the time your bleeding stopped, you had already lost too much blood. I see. That must have been a difficult experience for both of you. It was especially hard on my sister. I think she blames herself for not being able to save her. She seemed sincere when she said that. I didn't catch any dissonant thoughts through the eye either. Honestly, her testimony makes a lot of sense. It's hard to figure out which parts she might be lying about. There has to be a contradiction here somewhere. Your theory is that Valentina saw someone use mend wounds on Bellwether. You should focus on that statement that describes how they both interacted with her.
Objection!
Witness, what is the meaning of this? Hey, don't steal my objection. You're not Edgeworth. This isn't deserved yet. This bit isn't... You don't get to have this bit yet. It's the second case. Edgeworth only did some on the final case. That was basically DLC. What? Why are you looking at me like that? Maybe I can elaborate, Miss Iannis? You weren't present in the gallery earlier, were you? No, I was waiting in the lobby. Lady Stillwind told me to wait there. I considered myself lucky. This wouldn't have been nearly as easy if Valentina had seen my cross-examination of Orem. Oh, Orem. Wait. You see, Miss Iannis, one key element of the case is that the body didn't have any wounds on it. Yeah, so? Trying to push the evidence thing. So that begs the following question. People. Where are you, Orem? We don't have Orem in our people. Oh, so, is it... We don't have the detective in our people thing. It's funny. We have Arya, but no detective man. How did Valerie apply first aid when there shouldn't have been any wounds on the body? What? No. Did I screw up? But I saw that wound on her. What happened? There's clearly something amiss here. But I'm afraid I don't fully understand the implications of this. Are you accusing the witness of committing perjury, Mr. Cuthbert? When someone lied, they kept it as close to the truth as possible while changing minute details. In her thoughts, Valentina said that she was sure she saw a wound on Bellwether. She also mentioned that Valerie was the one who tried to save the professor. I knew that someone had cast healing magic on the body. That was why the wounds had disappeared. If the wounds disappeared after the twins discovered the body, that could only mean one thing. The witness was lying, Your Honor, but not about everything. Valerie Iannis did try to save the victim's life by addressing her wounds. But she didn't use first aid. She used magic. How did he figure it out?
Objection!
I'm sorry, Mr. Cuthbert, but your theory is completely flawed. How so, Steelwind? Well, it's quite simple. We've already verified that neither of the sisters is a mage. What? Wait, how can you be so sure? During the investigation, we had both the Iana sisters attuned to a spell compendium. Standard procedure for the Inquisition when interviewing witnesses. Then that means neither of the Iana sisters could attune to the compendium. That's right. The Inquisition checked us both. We're not mages. That was close. Was I wrong about Valerie being a mage? No, that couldn't be right. How did he figure it out? My thoughts said, how did he figure it out? That means I was on the right track. Valerie had to be the mage I was looking for. Celeste, is it possible for a mage to hold a spell compendium and avoid attuning to it? No, it just needs to be on their person. When I was arrested, the Inquisition also made me attune to one of their spell compendiums. They were really careful to make sure that I did the attunement correctly. There's no way a mage could avoid it with them watching you. Right. Commander White may have been negligent sometimes, but even he wasn't that careless. Now, if you're done, I do believe that you've exhausted all your options. Wait, I'm still not done cross-examining the witness. What could you possibly hope to glean from her testimony? Valentina was stressed out enough to see her thoughts, but I couldn't exactly say that I was planning to read her mind. At this point, I felt that I was already testing the judge's patience. There's one key element of her testimony that the court is overlooking. I have a right as an attorney to complete my cross-examination. Your Honor, the defense is clearly trying to buy time. I may be compelled to agree with you. However, I'll also admit that some elements of the witness's testimony are quite peculiar. I will allow the defense to continue their cross-examination. That was close. But know that this is your last chance, Mr. Cuthbert. If you produce nothing substantial with your questioning, I will pass my verdict. Of course, Your Honor. All right, it was all or nothing. If I couldn't find anything by reading her mind, this whole case was finished. Witness, please give your testimony once more. Okay. How long does he plan to keep me up here? Witness testimony. Like I said, my sister and I saw Miss Bellwether bleeding on the ground. We rushed over to her. I was definitely surprised when I saw her like that. Now that you mention it, I don't know if I saw any wounds on her, but I definitely saw blood. I can't go back on that now. I just need to play dumb. My sister tried to save her, but she didn't use any magic. Valerie, you're too kind-hearted. We're not mages. Both of us held that book the knights gave us. I was caught off guard when they asked us. They almost found us out. The commander was watching us the whole time. He can confirm it. It's a good thing that we're twins, or else that trick wouldn't have worked. What are we going to do? They have pretty hard proof that Valerie isn't a mage. Valerie is the mage we're looking for, I'm sure of it. I'm just not sure why they felt the need to lie to the Inquisition. And more importantly, how did they trick the Inquisition? Cross-examination. Interpret. Like I said, my sister and I saw Miss Bellwether bleeding on the ground. We rushed over to her. I was definitely surprised when I saw her like that. That matched the details of her previous testimony. There's nothing suspicious there, but I had no reason to doubt this. Now that you mention it, I don't know if I saw any wounds on her, but I definitely saw blood. I can't go back on that now. I just need to play dumb. It sounds like you're just backtracking on your previous testimony. But I'm not. I guess I just assumed she was wounded because of all the blood. How was I supposed to know she didn't have any wounds? There was so much blood. Her thoughts implied that she was lying, but her logic was sound. I should look at the thoughts that appeared during her other statements. My sister tried to save her, but you didn't use any magic. Valerie, you're too kind-hearted. If Valerie wasn't the one who closed her wounds, how did she try to help her? I don't know. She might have been looking for an open wound to apply first aid to. But if we assume that you're telling the truth, there wouldn't be any wound to find. My client would have already closed them to My client would have already closed them to confound the investigation. I'm telling you, I don't know! He's pleading ignorance of what happened. We're not mages. Both of us held that book that the knight gave us. I was caught off guard when they asked us. They almost found us out. They almost found them out. Can I assume that the book was an unattuned spell compendium? Yes. The Inquisition has several of them. It's standard procedure to have witnesses attuned to them. But doesn't the kingdom require that mages register? Why don't you just cross-reference those records with the witnesses' names? For whatever reason, many mages among the common folk avoid registering with the kingdom. As a result, many of them choose to hide their abilities. The commander was watching us the whole time. He can confirm it. It's a good thing that we're twins, or else that trick wouldn't have worked. It's a good thing that they're twins. Did you pull some kind of trick to deceive the Inquisition while attuning, Miss Giannis? Of course not. We know that lying to the Inquisition would get us in trouble. Why would either of us take a risk like that? Living as an unregistered mage is a serious crime. If Valerie was a mage, then you would have been charged with fraud right then and there. Yeah, but we already proved that we're not mages. The eye seems to differ. But I'd need something else to convince the court. I needed to think through this. This wasn't like a normal cross-examination. Nearly all of her thoughts were suspicious and contrary to her testimony. What I needed was to find the thought that gave me a thread to pull on. In this case, I would need to find the thought that implied how the twins tricked the commander. Once I found that, I could interpret it without the need for evidence. I think it's this one.
Objection!
Miss Giannis, your thoughts betray you. What? I found the thought. They must have done something to trick Orem. But what? It must have happened when he was interrogating them. Orem collected their statements. How are they holding up? I imagined that they'd be rattled after discovering a body. From what he said, they were extremely tense. But I suppose that's to be expected. He told me that they couldn't sit still. I found it difficult to take their statements because of that. They couldn't sit still. That implied they were moving somehow. She also thought it was a good thing that they were twins. How did the twins trick the Inquisition? This means that their so-called trick wouldn't have worked otherwise. Valentina switched places with Valerie. Of course! They switched places! Valentina attuned to the first spell compendium. Then she pretended to be Valerie to attune to the second one. They even wear the same uniform. No wonder Commander White couldn't tell the difference between them. Miss Giannis, there's something I want to confirm. During the investigation, both you and Valerie attuned to a spell compendium. Yeah, that knight watched us do it. And how did he have you do this? Did you both attune to those compendiums at the same time? Or did you attune one after another? What? I fail to see how that makes any difference, Mr. Cuthbert. Yes, I agree. The spell compendium would work regardless of what order they went in. You may not be aware of this, Your Honor, but Valentina and Giannis are identical twins. Which means that their physical appearances are nearly identical to each other. They also work in the same kitchen, which means that they must have been wearing the same uniform during questioning. If Commander White didn't have them attune at the same time, what would stop the twins from switching places with each other?
Objection!
This is clearly nothing but baseless conjecture. Orem wouldn't fail at such a basic task. Really, Prosecutor Steelwind, do you find it hard to believe that Commander White would fail at a task like this? Even so, the gift of magic is inherited through bloodlines. For a pair of genetically identical twins, it would be impossible for one twin to be a mage, while the other is not. Has that been proven, Steelwind? Because as far as I'm concerned, that is baseless conjecture. Wait a minute, this is crazy! We didn't trick the Inquisition! I keep telling you, my sister and I aren't mages! Then prove it, Miss Giannis. Bring in your sister and we will have you attuned to 2 spell compendiums at the same time. No!
Order!
Order in the court! It's clear that we won't get anywhere unless we test the defense's theory. Bailiff, escort Valerie Giannis to the stand and bring 2 unattuned spell compendiums. They've both had their hands on those compendiums for the last 10 minutes. There's no way they can fake it in front of this many people. Alright. It was the moment of truth. I could only hope that my theory was correct. No! Did he seriously? What is it, Prosecutor Steelwind? What I see is the commander seeking new employment in the near future. It appears that the defense was correct. Valentina Giannis isn't a mage, but Valerie Giannis is. What's more, Valerie Giannis' compendium contains a Dement's wound spell, which makes the defense's theory entirely plausible. Please, just allow me to explain. We should allow you to explain what exactly? You are an unregistered mage, and you and your sister have made a mess of the investigation and this trial. Would you know what it's like, Lady Steelwind? What? Do you think we don't know who you are? You're not like us. You don't have to hide. But it's okay. This whole situation has gotten out of hand. I didn't think it would cause so much trouble. And I won't let someone go to prison because of me. Even if he is a necromancer. Please let me testify about what I saw. I'll tell all of I'm going to kill myself. I miss my wife, Tails. I miss her a lot. I'll tell all of you what really happened that day. Your Honor, I believe we may all benefit from hearing Miss Giannis' testimony. Very well, but understand that there will be repercussions for your actions, witness. I know. Witness testimony. My sister and I were walking in the hallway from the kitchen to the west exit. That's when I suddenly spotted the professor lying in a pool of blood in a nearby classroom. Valentina used a communication device to call for help, while I tried to save her. I saw that she was bleeding, so I cast mend wounds on her to close her wounds. But it was too late. I closed the hole in her chest, but she was already dead. There was a hole in her chest. Your Honor, as you can clearly see from the witness's testimony, the trace of necromancy was left by the witness, not my client. What's more, it's clear that there was a physical wound on the body. I see. Well, his words trailed off. He clearly didn't want to pass a verdict with no clear culprit. But he had no choice. The case against Wallace was predicated on Bellwether being killed by necrotic blight. With Valerie's testimony, the prosecution didn't have a shred of evidence implicating him. Very well. The court sees no reason to prolong this trial. With these new developments, the court has no choice but to find Wallace Nightgrave.
Objection!
I believe the court is ignoring one key detail of the witness's testimony. And what would that be, Miss Steelwind? Let's re-examine the witness's testimony. Valentina used a communication device to call for help while I tried to save her. I saw that she was bleeding, so I cast mend wounds on her to close her wounds. But it was too late. I closed the hole in her chest, but she was already dead. The communication device that Valentina Ionis used logs the time of day during each use. From this log, we know that Valentina used this device at 3:04 p.m. This was an hour after the time of death. Where are you going with this? Mr. Cuthbert, there was a witness who saw the victim before the body was found. Jan Hughes. He, along with another witness, spotted Bellwether walking in the hallways before the body was found. I was cleaning the halls. Bellwether knocked over a vase. There were shards and dirt everywhere. Wait, you saw the professor before the twins arrived? Yeah, like I said, she broke the vase right in this hallway. It was probably 20 to 30 minutes before the twins found the body. 20 to 30 minutes before the body was found. Do you see the discrepancy, Mr. Cuthbert? Wait, that couldn't be right. Bellwether died more than an hour before the body was found. How did Jan see her half an hour after his death? I wonder, Mr. Cuthbert. Let me look at my evidence, because I don't think that's how that spell works. Animate corpse. Oh. Shit. You can't end it prematurely. How could one make a dead body move and walk around? No. We didn't just arrest the defendant based on those traces of necromancy. We arrested him because he was the only person in the school who could have animated her corpse. An undead created within the Imperial Academy? How reprehensible.
Objection!
That's ridiculous. She had a hole in her chest when the twins found her. Jan Hughes would have noticed that. Animate corpse stops the flow of blood, so she wouldn't have tracked blood anywhere. The defendant was also proficient with illusion magic. He could have easily used an illusion spell to hide the undead Bellwether's wounds. But another party could have easily used illusion magic to disguise themselves as the victim. If that's true, how did they move the body to the classroom? I'm trying to go to the evidence menu. God damn it. Finally. He does have illusory disguise. Prestidigitation. Still, and if your theory is true, it would mean that the murder occurred elsewhere. Would the Inquisition happen to know where? Regrettably, we do not. Then the prosecution's case against my client is still faulty. You can't convict my client without any more evidence. I must agree with Mr. Cuthbert. With these new developments, the court sees it fit to suspend the trial for the time being. We will give the Inquisition time to investigate these unknowns. Court proceedings for this case will resume tomorrow morning. Court is adjourned. We don't get to cross-examine the witness? Okay. Hey, are you feeling okay? A body was seen moving around an hour after death. It clearly wasn't Bellwether. Or at the very least, she wasn't alive when Jan ran into her. So what was it? Tyrion? Steelwind was right about one thing. There was illusion magic involved. But which spell was it? Could it have been illusory disguise? Tyrion! Ah, what? You've been pacing around the lobby since the trial ended. Sorry, I was just thinking about Steelwind's theory. It's a little creepy when you think about it. Do you really think someone turned the professor into an undead? I don't think so. The prosecution's case is hinged on one key point, that Wallace was the only high-level necromancer nearby. You have to assume that he's the only person capable of using that type of magic. But then how is she walking around? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. It's a given that Wallace didn't animate the body. No matter what they did, someone had to have used an illusion. Aren't there spells that can create freestanding illusions, not just disguises? I honestly don't know. We need to talk to someone who knows about that type of magic. Didn't Eris say that she was studying illusion magic? She might be able to give us a lead. Is that really a good idea? What do you mean? What if she's the one who created the illusion? What? I was detecting fear from her again. Celeste, are you afraid of Eris? What? No. I saw it this morning too. You always get really anxious whenever she's around. Oh, I didn't mean to be so obvious about it. What's wrong? Sorry, it's not based on anything real, but... How do I explain this? You already know that I was working as a mercenary before this. When you do that kind of work, you build up an instinct to sense danger. You kind of have to if you want to stay alive. Sorry. I never knew. Tyrion, I fought literal monsters that barely escaped with my life. But when I'm near Eris, none of those creatures come even close. I get this feeling, it's like I'm in front of a predator that I can't ever hope to beat. Every instinct I have tells me to run whenever she's close by. Really? But she doesn't seem that dangerous. Just a little mischievous. I know, I think maybe I'm just anxious or something. I should know better than anyone not to judge people by how they look. Sorry, I forgot I said anything. If you think we should talk to her, then we should do that. Celeste's instincts have never steered me wrong before. She had always been reliable, and if Eris was making her feel this way, that must have meant something. But that's all the more reason for us to talk to her. But aside from that, there was also something else that the prosecutor said. Mr. Cuthbert, there was a witness who saw the victim before the body was found, Jan Hughes. He, along with another witness, spotted Bellwether walking in the hallways before the body was found. There was another witness who saw Bellwether walking around. Right! Jan probably isn't the most reliable witness. He was probably only half awake when he saw her. But do you think Steelwind will tell us who that witness was? We still have to have that deal with her. We won't lose anything by asking. Honestly, that's still bothering me. What is? Why was she so interested in who my biological parents are? It's none of her business. That was strange. She traded information about the investigation for it too. Maybe she thinks you're her long-lost sister. Oh, I never even thought of that. I don't know. Wouldn't that mean that I'm the daughter of Lucio Steelwind? I think my dad would have thrown a fit if he ever heard that. You are pretty good at fighting. That actually makes a lot of sense. I guess I like Arya, and I've always wished I had a sister. But I don't want to think about this right now. Maybe you can ask her when you're at that brunch you strong-armed her into. Oh, I almost forgot! I can't believe I'm going to meet Authoress Duskweaver. Anyways, we still had a long investigation ahead of us. And we need to start by talking to Steelwind about that witness. Okay, and we'll talk to Steelwind about that witness next time. Bye bye!